Hello there guys, and in this tutorial what we are going to do is we are going to review what we have learned from the last checkpoint up until this point. Okay, so the first thing we talked about is we talked about how to redirect input and output. So if I wanted to redirect the output of the ls command to a file called output.txt, I would do it like this. However, that would overwrite the file, so what I should do is use the double greater than signs, or for example, I should use the ampersand greater than sign to redirect both the standard output and the standard error. Okay, and we talked a bit more about these special sequence of characters which are used for redirecting various kinds of things in the tutorial which covered that. Okay, then we talked about pipelines. Pipelines are a way to redirect standard output of one command to the standard input of the other command. So if I wanted to see which files contain the letter A in this folder, I could do so like this, press enter, and I get all of the files which contain the letter A. By piping the standard output of the ls command to the standard input of the grep command, and pipelines can be arbitrarily long. Then we talked about shell globbing, that is wildcards, and we said that it is used to match file names before the command is executed. So if I were to write something like this, this would match all of the file names that start with the letter A and have 0 or more characters afterwards. So this would actually match all of the file names. However, if this was a regular expression, what this would say is match the character A 0 or more times. So this says, okay, match the file names that start with A and have 0 or more characters. But if this was a regular expression, it would say, okay, match the letter A 0 or more times. Okay, so that is the difference. And we also talked about regular expressions, and basically we said that grep is actually a command intended to be used for regular expressions. And we also talked about that this is the reason why you quote your patterns, is because if you used some regular expressions patterns like this, then what would happen is that it would get expanded by the shell before it is passed to the command, and that would be a bad thing, right? Because if you didn't surround this in quotes, this would get expanded to all of this, and then you would have an issue. Okay, so that's why you enclose it in quotes. And we also talked about brace expansion, which is basically if I want to write something like this, my file 1, 2, 3, and press enter, I get my file 1, my file 2, my file 3. Okay, so these are roughly the most important points. We covered each of these topics in more detail in their respective videos. And again, I hope you kind of refreshed your memory and just gotten an overview of what we talked about, because there has been a lot of stuff. I don't want to lie to you. There has been a lot of new concepts, and I really hope you now understand why I told you that it is important to understand this, because if something goes wrong, you now have two levels of understanding you need to understand. First of all, you need to understand what the command itself does, and then you need to understand all of these other things, such as shell expansion, regular expressions, if you'll ever use those. And so you need to understand those. Okay. And in all honesty, the thing which I used most often was the pipelines. I used them almost daily. Then I used the shell expansion, not really. So honestly, shell expansion, I haven't used it that much. I used input-output redirection. That's what I used after the pipeline. So my frequency of usage goes first are pipelines, then is input-output redirection. Then I would say even regular expressions, then shell globbing, and brace expansions I basically never used. Okay, but again, those are concepts important to be aware of if you ever need them, so that you understand that they exist. Okay, so don't worry if you're not like firmly grasping it. The more you use Linux, the more you will actually use these things, and you will see it for yourself What do you need to use more? What do you need to use less? And again, listen, I'm just a software engineer. I mean, and I don't mean it in like in a sarcastic way, like just a software engineer. But what I mean by that is my focus isn't Linux. I'm focused on writing code, and I use the command line just to do some basic stuff. I'm not really some system administrator, and they might actually have a different perspective. Okay. So this is it for this tutorial. I hope you refreshed your memory, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Adios.